So it is day 18 of my BlackBerry challenge. This is a 30-day challenge where I'm going to be using the BlackBerry Torch 9810 for 30 days. Like I said, it's day 18, so it's been a while giving you guys my weekly update. This week has been a little bit different because I actually took off work this week because of a personal emergency, and so I was out and about a lot more than I usually am, and so I got to use the phone in ways that I haven't really, so far I got to really test it out and use a couple of features that I haven't used thus far just because usually I'm at home working. So I used things like maps, navigation, internet, and a couple of other apps while I was out and about. And it was a good test. I also brought an Android phone with me just in case I needed it. Normally I'm testing the phone, but in this case, 30-day challenge aside, I was in a situation where I needed something that would work, that was reliable. I didn't have time for, messing around with it. I just needed something to work. And so I had brought the Android phone just in case I needed it. And I ended up needing it because BlackBerry really failed in every area where I needed it. It was adequate. Maps worked okay. Web browsing, I've said before, it's decent, but still kind of a little bit slow and laggy. And just, in the situation I was in, I was like, you know what, I don't have time for this. And the Android phone, as you know, maps navigation is excellent, web browsing is excellent. Maps on BlackBerry, it's kind of slow. It takes a while to refresh, if you zoom in or move around. Aesthetically, just visually, I like the design on Android more. I think it's more refined. So performance with maps and navigation, definitely not good enough, and so I ended up using the Android phone I had brought. Also, when it came to web browsing, again, I've said before, it's usable. If I have the patience, I can, whatever, if I'm web browsing or looking up news, I can use it and kind of just work with it. But again, in this situation, I didn't have time for that. I needed the web page to load, I needed to pinch and zoom, I needed to navigate, and it didn't work, and so I went to using the Android phone. And a couple of other things, specifically with apps, there was maybe an app that I needed, or I needed to get information on a certain thing, and so a specific app would be helpful for that. And either, it didn't work well enough on the BlackBerry, or the BlackBerry app world just didn't have that app available. And that's something that I've talked about before, how the app selection is very poor. And this was a situation where it actually mattered. Normally it's like, okay, if there's no ESPN app, fine, whatever. Or if there's no app for this, or the games aren't that great, it's, I can deal with it. But in this situation, I just needed it to work. I needed a specific app, and it didn't have it. So it was a good test, and I learned a lot about the phone, and in the end I was disappointed, and I think it was kind of a more honest, true life test rather than sitting at my desk testing out web browsing, or going around and testing speed tests like what we usually do. It was a real world test, and so I think it was a more honest examination. Last week I talked about how I was coming to grips with what BlackBerry was, what it isn't. I had started to, discover a couple of new features and new apps, and figuring out if I could really use it in every aspect of my life, not just email, but also web browsing, news, listening to music, different things like that. And I was kind of starting to settle into it. But this past week, with the experience that I had, again, I'm going back to what I said before. It performed okay. It was all right, but compared to Android, Windows Phone, iOS, it's just not good enough. There are a few areas where the operating system, where BlackBerry is as good as Android, iOS, and Windows Phone, but in most areas, it's not as good, and I don't think there's any areas where it's better. And so, to me, when I look at an operating system and I want to know, should I use this, I'm only going to use it if it's better than something else. That was one of the reasons why I switched to Windows Phone, because I thought in some areas it was better than Android. Now, that was my personal preference. Not everyone feels that way, but for me, I felt in some ways it was better than Android. For BlackBerry, I don't see any areas where it's better than Android, Windows Phone, or iOS, and there's very few areas where it's as good as those operating systems. So You know, I'm on day 18, so I still have quite a ways to go. I can already tell when the challenge is over, I'm probably not going to use BlackBerry anymore. I will whenever BlackBerry 10 is announced and released and we can get some hands-on time with it. I am going to, you know, try that out, give it a shot. I don't know if I'll do another 30-day challenge, but I would like to see that because what we've seen so far is pretty exciting. But I'm kind of getting the feeling that BlackBerry in its current state is not for me, but you know, it's day 18, things could change, but I think I'm kind of to the point now where, you know, this is what it is. I've kind of already seen its potential, I guess, or what it could be or what it's not, and I think I'm kind of accepting that now. But that's my day 18 update. I'll be back on day 23, which is Tuesday the 28th, and so I don't know, maybe something new will happen. Like I said, this week was kind of different, so maybe next week things will be a little bit different. But those are my thoughts for this week. If you missed any of these videos, you can check out the previous ones. I have, I think, 4 or 5 so far in this challenge, and also check out Aaron's videos. He's doing a 30-day challenge with the Galaxy Note, so that's been pretty interesting. But that's it. I'll see you guys on day 23, and possibly in the meantime. I'm Sydney from PhoneDoc.com. I'll see you guys later. Bye.